And know that when you gave your life over to Jesus Christ, you entered into a kingdom of not just enough. It's more than enough. It's abundant. It's overflow. All right. There's mass. Okay. There's storehouses. That's the kingdom you entered into. You didn't enter into the kingdom of kom maar net bietjie verby. Nee, you entered into a kingdom of more than enough. A kingdom that cannot be shaken. That is the kingdom we entered into. And when we keep the main thing, all the lesser things that we actually worry about will actually be added unto us abundantly. Which also means the opposite is true. Because if you don't keep the main thing, you could end up losing the main thing and the lesser things. Jesus said it best. He said, in this, what would it profit a man if he gains the whole world, but he forfeits his own soul? What's the point if you get all the wealth, the power, the fame, but you forfeit your own soul? Let me put it to you slightly differently. What's the point of fame if you fake? What's the point of wealth if you corrupt? There's no point. All right? Because everything God does is intentional. Everything that God does is purposeful, which leads to these next points here. And I'll give you some building blocks before I go into that one there. I shared 2 weeks ago as well with you guys, and I want to share it again. It's going to be building block number 1 here. Building block number 1 is irrespective of whatever crisis is happening in our generation or generations to come, irrespective of the crisis, irrespective of the increase of wickedness, which Jesus speaks of in the Bible in Matthew 24, all right, which we'll maybe explain a bit later. But irrespective of the increase of wickedness does not mean that your calling has now ceased to exist. Your calling still exists. Hence, you've been called for a time such as this. God knew that there was going to be turmoil on the earth. He knew there was going to be crisis on the earth. And therefore, what did he need to do? He sent us. So you came at exactly the right time. Because sometimes people think like, oh, if only I was born in the 1800s. Or if only I was born in the 1700s. Or if only I had, what my parents had back then. No, forget that. You came at exactly the right time that God wanted you on this earth. So irrespective of what the mainstream news narratives are shoving down our throats constantly, your calling and your purpose still exists. Which building block number 1. Building block number 2 is this one here. Which means that the crisis ultimately serves as the vehicle of alignment with our calling and purpose. Throughout the scriptures, from Genesis all the way through, you see how God uses a crisis to actually align people with their calling and their purpose. Case in point, Joseph. Case in point, Moses. Case in point, David. Case in point, Nehemiah. Case in point, Esther. Case in point, Jesus. Case in point, God himself. For God so loved the world because everything was hunky-dory. No, he saw us perishing. There was a crisis, and boom, crisis served as a vehicle of alignment for calling and purpose. So could it possibly be that inside of whatever pain or thing that you might be going through right now, irrespective of the crisis that's happening around us, could it be that this is something maybe God is using as a vehicle of alignment to get you in line with your calling and with your purpose moving forward? Did God then send? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is whatever the enemy meant for evil, God is turning it around for good to get people aligned with their calling and purpose.